How pay to win is Pokemon at TCG Pocket? This is a topic that comes up whenever you look at a game that has microtransactions and some sort of competition inside the game. So in this video, I want to talk about free-to-play players and their ability to build competitive decks. I may touch on the collective aspect of getting all the rare cards, but to me that doesn't fall into the pay-to-win category because winning I refer to as the competitive side. I will touch on collecting, but just note that is a much deeper thing where you're going to be spending a lot more money to get every rare card in the game. So just keep that in mind. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is look at not just competitive as free to play, but also what I've been seeing from the community on how much they've had to spend to sort of build most of the competitive decks that you want to build inside the game. Now, this is another thing that will fluctuate greatly depending on RNG, and just note there will be a lot of RNG in these things, but I want to look at both the free to play, the paid aspect of how much money you're probably going to be looking at to build competitive decks, with the disclaimer that it always changes, and then also the current state of the game and what future features the game might offer to the free-to-play / pay-to-win aspects of the game, and also what future sets could do in that aspect as well. So let's get into how pay to win is Pokemon TCG Pocket. So the first topic that I want to discuss is building competitive decks as a completely free player without spending any money. Now, the one big thing to remember inside this game is that you do get 2 free packs every day plus extra hourglasses. So the longer you play, the more built out your account is going to be and the more access to more competitive decks you will have. But let's just look at it from a day one global launch. You want to jump in, you want to build a deck, and you want to start competing. Now, for free to play players who are not spending a dime, you're probably going to go down the path of rerolling. Now, if you don't know what rerolling is, I have a guide on the channel. I'll have a new one up for the global launch that is updated. But essentially, it's playing through the early stages of the game, getting all those packs that the game just pushes at you at the start of the game to get that dopamine rush to try and hopefully make you spend. But you open all those early packs, and then if you don't like what you got, you delete your data, you jump in again, and you keep going until you get an account that you are happy with. That's what I did to get this account that has 3 crown rare cards, which are otherwise incredibly rare. However, when I was doing my rerolling over the first sort of week of the game, I had about 7 accounts that I have bound to different Gmail accounts, which I have them labeled as specific decks. So when I was doing those early packs, I was targeting specific cards, whether I was targeting Mewtwo and Gardevoir, whether I was targeting Charizard and Moltres, maybe Starmie and Misty, Articuno and Misty. There's different accounts that I built depending on what deck I wanted to play so that I could play them completely for free. And that is what you're going to have to do around the launch of the game if you do want to play a competitive deck. Now, do note that there are some really competitive decks that almost anyone can build if you choose the right packs. For instance, the Marowak EX deck is a very simple one to build. You can build it with only one Marowak EX that you get for free if you choose the Mewtwo pack, and it's kind of consistent with Sandslash and Marowak. So there are more free-to-play friendly decks and more competitive decks. But when we look at building any deck that you want, if you are free-to-play at the launch of the game, you are going to be having to do the reroll method, and this will not only cost you time, but also some sanity along the way. But just note that is going to be your main way as free to play to do it. And do I recommend doing it? It depends if you enjoy it. If you absolutely hate it, then I wouldn't recommend it. I personally enjoy doing the rerolls, and that's why I did so many and got so many different accounts with competitive decks, because it was a bit of fun to me as well. But free to play, that is going to be your avenue at the launch of the game if you want to play competitive decks on day one. Now, as we move past that, like I said, you do open 2 packs per day, so gradually you will be building yourselves more decks that you can compete with. But as a free-to-play player with this account that I had a really good reroll on, there are still many decks that I can't play on this account. I can't play the Mewtwo EX deck because I don't have my Gardevoirs. I can play the Starmie deck, except I'm missing a Misty. I haven't got yet a Giovanni. I do have a full Charizard deck, so I'm sort of scattered in the decks that I can build. I can build some of them. I have nothing through the Pikachu pack, so I can't build any Pikachu or electric decks, and that is currently where I'm at after about 20 days of this account being active. So just note that over time you will be able to build up more accounts, but if you reroll really hard at the start and get a really good account, then you are going to have more access to it. Now, the one thing I will mention as well for free to play is don't worry about the flashy cards like the gold crown rares, the immersive rares and stuff like that. To be competitive and play competitive decks, these are the only things you need. You only need these EX EX versions. You don't need the fancy versions with the crown rare Charizards and stuff like that. 2 copies of Charizard EX is all you need to be in your Charizard place in your deck. You don't need the immersive rares, you don't need the gold rares. However, they are a bit of fun and collector's value if you do want them. Now, the other thing that we do have for building competitive decks is the pack points. However, the pack points are very scarce and don't give you great access into a lot of things. I think the pricing on the 3 diamond cards at 150 is quite reasonable. However, when we go into the EX cards at 500, that gets super expensive. Keeping in mind, 20 days, I've got 405 pack points. I believe I've spent 140 on 2 2-star cards. So, you know, I am down a little bit there. I would be able to technically buy myself an EX, but the EX are the really hard ones to get, whereas the others are a bit more reasonably priced. I do think that the 1 diamond and at 35 and the 2 diamond at 70 is still a bit expensive because you just sometimes get shafted and don't get those 2 diamond ones. Like, I am missing so many of the gym leaders, which I need to use in decks, for instance, Giovanni and also Misty, and I was missing Blaine until I bought one. And those are really punishing. So, but just note, pack points are a thing to help you complete decks. And if you are doing that strategy of rerolling for a specific deck, if you reroll and get all the EXs, or maybe if you're building a Mewtwo deck, you get your Mewtwo's and then you get your Gardevoirs, and maybe you have to go ahead and pick up a couple Sabrinas, which is a gym leader, which is going to cost you like that 70 points, then it's not too bad because you're building that account for that specific purpose. But just know, pack points are a thing which will help us get those decks built. So that rounds up free to play. Can you build competitive decks free to play? Yes, you can, but it is going to take one of 2 things. It's going to take time in waiting for packs and hoping for luck, or time in rerolling accounts until you get an account that has the exact cards that you are looking for to build the account. So that is the whole free-to-play aspect of building competitive decks from the start of the game. Just note, it will take you time, but it can be done. Next up, I want to talk about how much money you're going to be probably spending. Now, don't take this as, he said I spend this much, I get every card in the game. That's not what I am saying. I'm just going on average from speaking to people playing the game, how much they've spent, across how many days they've played, to get access to not maybe every card, but a wide range of competitive decks. And I can speak to this on my own paid account that I did. On my paid account, I did reroll until I had pretty much a full Charizard deck anyway, and then I spent the money and I tried to get as many other cards that I could have to build as many competitive decks as possible. Now, over on that account, I believe I spent about 170 Australian dollars, which is maybe around $100 to get what I would consider a pretty built account where I could build most decks that I am looking for. I'm still missing 1 or 2, but once again, I could use those pack points if I wanted to, but I am just a hoarder, but I could use those pack points to fill out the rest of my roster. But I'm also keeping in mind that I get 2 packs per day, so I can eventually fill out my roster over time by using those extra free packs that I get. But most people I speak to, it's normally between about $100 and $200 USD that people are spending to build almost any deck they want. Now, that is including using those pack points once again. I have heard of some people spending like as low as $20 or $50 and feeling like they have access to all the meta decks. But just note, that is sort of the price range that we are looking at for the Genetic Apex set based on how it is in the soft launch. Now, some people may go more, some people may go less, but that is just a rough ballpark we are looking at. Now, as for the rare cards, it's just sort of, I don't even have an opinion on this. I just think the rare cards is something that's a nice bonus if it pops in, and if it doesn't, oh well. Just note, if you want to be the guy who has every single card in the game in every single different rarity, you've either got to have the absolute god tier of god tier RNG on your side, or you're going to have to be spending a lot of cash, and that's just pretty much the way it is. So I'm not going to spend too much more time on the collector side, because like I said, I am more focusing on the battling side and building those competitive decks. But once again, around $100 to $200 looks like about what is needed for this Genetic Apex set. But once again, just keep in mind, if you have one deck on your account that you're pretty happy with and you're enjoying playing that, you don't have to rush into spending money to build the other decks. As I mentioned, you get 2 free packs per day, plus you get extra hourglasses. Maybe they'll bring in events that gives us even more. So over time, you will start beefing up your account. And if you go ahead and dump like all the cash into the game on day 1 so that you can have absolutely absolutely every card, 2 copies of them. When I talk about every card, I mean just like play sets of them. So just the base Charizard EX as opposed to the immersive or crown rare. If you dump all that money in and you get all them, you're still going to have a bunch of packs rolling in before they release the next set, which are effectively useless for you on a competitive sense. So I think spreading out your spending in this game, if you just get one deck that you're happy with, is going to be a wise decision so that you don't sort of waste money that you didn't really need to spend, because over time you would have got those remaining cards to build those decks. Just a matter of how impatient are you on wanting to play every new deck that pops into your head and chasing that shiny new thing. Moving on from that, I want to talk about a very key feature that will be coming to the game, which should hopefully help alleviate the pain of having to spend money or feeling like you're just missing out on that one card, and that is trading. They have announced that trading is coming to the game. It is actually built into the game currently and has the coming soon sign, but how it will work, we don't know. And that is the big thing. I just don't know what to even expect from trading, because at the end of the day, this is a business and they probably want to make a lot of money out of it. So making trading just any card for any card as many times as you want isn't really going to be viable, because then people will just re-roll a bunch of different accounts, get all the good cards they want, trade them all to one account, and then no one will ever spend money in the game. And like I said, when they're running a business, their business is about making money. So I anticipate that it will have some fairly steep guardrails, whether it be time gated, where we have hourglasses for opening packs and doing wonder pick. Maybe they've got hourglasses for doing a trade, so you can only do a trade maybe once a day, maybe even once a week. Maybe they have different hourglasses or time limits on higher rarity trades. It's probably going to be same rarity for same rarity. I'm not too sure, but we will have to wait and see. But my one hope is that the trade feature can help you get around missing that one particular card that you want. Now, we do already have 2 other features that let you do that. The one is the pack points, like I mentioned earlier, and also the wonder pick, which can give you access to someone else's pack to get the cards. But once again, this is a 1 in 5 chance when you get it, if the card does show up. So that's not entirely reliable. So I really do hope that trading will offer some aid in that and ease the burden on just chasing that one single card that you need, and sometimes spending a ridiculous amount of money trying to buy packs to get that one card that you are chasing. So let's hope for that. But once again, you do have the pack points, so at worst case, you're going to hit that limit on the pack points and you will eventually get that card. The other thing that I want to talk about is future sets, because I think future sets is where it could really impact free-to-play players. Now, if a future set comes out and you have no hourglasses left to open any packs, you're kind of just going to be forced out of the meta if there is a new meta inside those packs. Now, whether they run promotions or events during new packs, we still have to wait and see. So I think the big unknown for how pay to win the game will get will be when we see our first big new set release. That will show us how predatory it's going to be, in that either you have a bunch of hourglasses saved up or you're sort of going to have to spend money. Now, even if that does become the case, I do think there will still be the availability for free-to-play players to once again re-roll another account and go for the specific deck that you are trying to build. But I think as the game expands and we get more sets, that is going to become harder and harder, because maybe you want some of the tech cards from the earlier set and now you got to open so many different packs and it becomes an absolute nightmare to do. So I think at the global launch of the game, I think the game is actually fairly free-to-play friendly if you're willing to put in the time or be patient enough to build your decks. However, the thing is, I do see it with future sets, depending on how they implement the launch of future sets. I could see that where it becomes really straining on free-to-play players. But as for the price point on this set, like I said, most people spending, maybe a bit less than $100 up to $200. As dumb as this may sound to some people, I actually see that as being kind of reasonable, depending on how frequent their sets are. And they have said that they will adjust the frequency of sets depending on the demand of the player base. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But when I look at other gacha games, which not like trading card games, but gacha games in the mobile gaming space, that they can be much, much larger money sinks than that. So I do think it is reasonable, but still, the fact that there is good access into free-to-play ability to build competitive decks, I think is a good one. But once again, my big concern is waiting to see how the first big new set is launched and how well they handle that with giving free packs with it, so that people can get a good baseline of cards from the new sets, or whether it's like, nah, if you're free to play, you got to spend money to get the set. So that is the big unknown that we'll have to wait and see. But at the moment, I think the game is on a reasonable level of pay to win. I don't think it's completely breaking the game. I do think you can compete as free to play. There are some nice free to play decks, but once again, only time will tell how the game will actually evolve in the pay to win aspect. But let me know any thoughts you guys have. That was just my roundup on how pay to win I think it is currently. Like I said, currently I'm actually loving my free to play account. I've got about 4 really competitive decks that I can build on my free to play account after about 20 days and a really good reroll. And I'm pretty happy with my free to play, and I honestly play it more than my spender account because I just get more enjoyment out of it. But anyway, guys, that is going to be it for this one. As always, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.